Yes, the Hake Report is starting. Thank you to Periscope for starting right away. And to DLive, yes, it did start immediately. And of course, Facebook and YouTube. Thank you guys. Twitch should always, Twitch takes a sec to catch on. I also stream on talkstreamlive.com and then look for the Hake Report. Or, the direct link is on the hakereport.com/show. Also, the audio player, which is actually the Jesse Lee Peterson show audio player, which also streams my show while it's live, is on the hakereport.com/show, as well as jesseleepeterson.com/show. Isn't that nice? So anyways, it is Tuesday, July 28th, 2020, 9:03 a.m. here in Los Angeles. Get pumped. We're going to have a show. So let's get started. That dumb hair.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report. The Hake Report. La la la.
So, what's up, guys? I am James Hake. As you know, I am going to be getting to your calls, 888-775-3773. I have a couple of callers already on the line that I'm excited about getting to, more than a couple, actually. So, but hang tight. I first want to get to, as promised, this horrific compilation of stories showing you guys that teaching children to hate cops, whites, anybody, men, hatred in general, teaching children in general, is a horrific, long-standing practice. And they're trying to push it more and more towards all races. But it's been happening to black children for a long time. Believe it or not. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys believe it. But some of the stuff that I'm going to tell you, you won't believe. But, we've heard some horror stories today. By the way, real quick point, the term non-essential, I watched a movie, a World War II era movie recently, for the first time ever. It came out when I was a child, or, a young man, which it means child, elementary school age, like 3rd grade or something. It was called, what is that story about? Schindler's List. Schindler's List. And it's about this German guy who was in the Nazi party because he was a businessman, and it was very business friendly to be in the Nazi party, as it is very business friendly to support the Democrat Party today, interestingly enough, and the Black Lives Matter Party, if you want to call them that. And the Antifa Party. It's very business friendly to promote Black Lives Matter. You've seen signs saying Black Lives Matter. Whole Foods, banks, all kinds of stuff. And Happy Pride Month. You see this in banks, on ATM screens. Pride, something, which is for homosexuality, the LGBTQ stuff, as if that's something to be proud of. Not just something to be humane to these people. No, be proud of it. When in reality, it is a perversion. But anyways, the point is, back in Germany, according to this movie, it was acceptable and helpful to you to be a part of the Nazi party. So this guy I didn't know that it was played by Liam Neeson, who's an actor. And I'm chuckling because as I think about the actor Liam Neeson in recent headlines, several months back, he made headlines and had this crazy controversy because a female acquaintance of his, I don't know if it was a friend or a family member or what, was allegedly sexually assaulted. I say sexually assaulted to clean up the word because I don't want to say raped on air because it sounds so bad. Oops, I said it. But according to her, she was that, hurt in that way, or, taken advantage of. And he was so mad. He was walking around some city, I think it was in England somewhere, with a cudgel, which is a stick. It's more than a stick. It's actually a club that he could hit somebody with a club, anybody who tries him. And he said, I was walking around this city for days or for a week or something with a cudgel, hoping some black bastard is the word that he used would try me or something like that. So that because he wanted to take revenge on who hurt you. A lot of guys, especially because comes off as semi-masculine. So he was trying to be the gentleman type of protector or avenger or whatever of, and allegedly, I guess the rape was by some black guy. Maybe. False accusations fly around a lot, right? Who knows? But and so he apologized because he had to apologize. I think, didn't he star in a movie with some black actress? I don't know. Yeah, he has. But anyways, he starred in this movie, and he was. I'm going back to this Holocaust movie because his thing was supposedly like saving Jews in some way from the Holocaust in Germany. And the way that he saved them, I don't want to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it, but it is an old movie, was he called them essential workers. Isn't that interesting? If they were essential workers, they didn't have to go off to these camps. So he saves these little girls as they're essential. So they got to go to work for him because they have these small fingers that can get into the rounds of some artillery that he's mass producing, right? Allegedly. And it's just very interesting that in these COVID times with this, what J.C. Lee Peterson calls the Chinese virus, because it originated with China, according to all reports, except for from the Chinese. They are closing down, quote unquote, non-essential businesses, such as these gyms, which are even enforcing. They're trying to be at 20%, 40% capacity. Look at this story. I think I told you guys about it. Gym owners who defied New Jersey governor arrested because the Democrat governor, Phil Murphy, called them non-essential businesses. Isn't that interesting? So that's Nazi commie language. Because it's not enough to call people communists. You have to call them Nazi communists, because Nazi is the worst word in most people's minds, according to the brainwashed stuff. You have to call them Nazi commie, white supremacist, and you can call them sexual assaulters, but you can't say rapists. Anyways, that's what Democrats and experts are calling people, is non-essential. And so I just came across that movie. I was just random. I wanted to watch it, eventually intended to watch it. So I finally watched that movie, Schindler's List. And they were calling people non-essential and then sending them off to the death camps, according to the story. Nazis and communists are two different things, Hake. In my mind, when I was a child, they were the same thing. They were both like bad guys, according to like when I was a kid. I remember somebody said Jesus was a communist, some liberal person, right? And then said, wow, they said Jesus was a Nazi. Anyways, and it's the bad kind of, because that's the bad kind of thing that the Nazis reportedly did, was call people non-essential. or call businesses non-essential. Supposedly they stood up for some morals. Anyways, teaching children hatred. That's what I really want to talk about. I was telling you guys about this yesterday, and I didn't get to it. We've seen how filthy and nasty many black liberals, even black rhinos, illegal aliens, or at least people who support the illegal aliens coming in, the radical homosexuals who promote this stuff. Some of them are like producers who produce these movies with these kids flipping off the camera and cussing, thinking it's cute because, in a sense, it's cute to hear. In a sense, it's kind of cute to hear kids cuss, like, oh, it's so cute, but that it's also wrong. You know what I mean? Have you ever heard a kid cuss and people laugh, or you kind of think, oh, it's kind of cute? But no, it's evil. This is evil what they're pushing. And it's actual, like, full-blown hatred that they're pushing. Teaching children to hate cops, whites, Christians, America, accept homosexuality as normal. They're pushing that like crazy, even on Sesame Street, by the way. Producers, oosers. I always say that these people hate their own fellow blacks. You know how I always make the point that, like, Black Lives Matter, they hate blacks. Or the ADL, they hate Jewish people. The ADL, they're pro-DL, pro-defamation. They hate Jewish people. They're increasing the hatred and resentment towards Jewish people by constantly crying anti-Semitism. And they're also encouraging Jewish people to have this victim mindset and always accusing people mindset. Just like how the blacks are constantly accusing whites of racism. And so in some cases, most people can't even connect the dots how something could possibly be construed as racist, but they still call it racist. Imagination runs wild. But you may have seen on the Jesse Lee Peterson show yesterday, and it's on Instagram too and elsewhere, it went viral. Little black kids, I'm holding up my hand and it's probably still taller than them. Maybe not. But in some cases it is. Who are holding these F the police signs, and I think they said F the police with the full-blown F word. Yeah. And we've seen pictures of them saying F ICE, little Hispanic kids doing F ICE and stuff like that, and F Trump. Yeah, they do F Trump stuff and hold up their middle fingers. Jesse Lee Peterson just the other week, told you in his show and on Church with Jesse Lee Peterson about how Oprah propped up these 100 black fathers. She's really an oppressive person in the motherly type of way, who steal these black fathers who stole the innocence of their children by telling them that cops aren't good. Jesse Lee Peterson has written about Michelle Alexander, the author of The New Jim Crow, and this Ta-Nehisi Coates guy. He's propped up by The Atlantic. I don't know if he still writes for them. This is the article that came out in December 20th, 2015 in WorldNet Daily, WND.com. How blacks teach kids hate, blame, and victimhood. And by kids, they mean their own children. Infecting their children with anger. And CNN comedian and host Kamau Bell, Kamau Bell, with wild hair. These leftist black intellectuals, all of whom teach their children the hate, blame, and victimhood, right? And that's a reference to his great book, The Antidote, Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. Just by the way, I do recommend it. Informative book. And it's kind of inspiring. Like he relates to Michael Brown in that book in the first chapter, which is available, I think, on WorldNet Daily. But the anger that Michael Brown had in attacking Officer Darren Wilson, and they talk about Darren Wilson in this case. Over the years, on the Jesse Lee Peterson show and Church with Jesse Lee Peterson, we've seen cases of these, like I told you, the radical homosexuals, by radical homosexuals, the ones who are pushing it as right, and they're also pushing so-called anti-racism, Black Lives Matter supporters, illegal alien supporters who make this, there's this outlet called F-Hate, F*CK*H8. You know how they had the Pope in an Advocate magazine, which is a gay outlet, and it said on his cheek was tattooed, fake tattoo, right? Just photoshopped onto it. It said no hate, N-O-H, and the number 8. It's a homosexual meme, I guess, because he said, "Oh, if two people love each other, who am I to judge?" Something like that, referring to homosexuals who so-called love each other, but that's not love. But they put out these propaganda videos in which kids, boys and girls of color, cuss, flip off the camera, pics of children at supposedly pro-illegal alien protests, F-ICE, F-Trump, all that madness. And Trump loves everybody. He's like the most decent, well-meaning person in the government that I can think of in my lifetime. So when I see these signs where they're teaching these kids vulgar hatred towards cops, it just, I roll my eyes and I practically gloss over it and move on. But I'm like, you know what? I better not gloss over it and move on and just point out how really, honestly, it is evil, but it's kind of unremarkable. Like you're kind of used to seeing it. The MSM certainly doesn't care. They don't cover it. Do they? Did they cover this story? I don't think so. Maybe Fox News did, but that's it. Only conservative media pretends to be outraged, but we can't live off of outrage. We have to live off of what's right. That's because otherwise the outrage is gonna wear off because you're just so used to seeing it. It's kind of like the cases of black violent crime, black riots, black on white crime. You're just so used to seeing it. They all blur together. It's kind of like Me Too accusations. You're so, whatever. They wear you down with this endless, naked, shameless hatred. It's no longer shocking. So this is kind of the norm now. And no one cares, no one fixes it either, by the way. So meanwhile, a white guy speaks the truth or says something mildly edgy, mildly close to the truth, and they're suddenly outraged mind readers. Oh, this person is a racist or a sexist or something. That's why I say that we whites and every half-decent person, too, who's for what's right, needs to get back to this shamelessness, but shamelessness for the truth and shamelessness for, like, love. Because otherwise you could become, like, real spurgy. And so you don't want to be, by spurgy, I mean, like, lashing out at people with the so-called truth and with the facts. And they are real facts that you may lash out with, but it's more like beating people over the head with it, or you're doing it out of fear or anger or panic or pride. You see it a lot. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, right? So I have some sources that I'm going to reference. They're going to be listed in my blog post for today's show, which will go up on the hakereport.com/blog. 10 rules. This was a Jesse Lee Peterson YouTube video from a few years back. 10 rules for black kids to survive racist cops. This is the title of the video. Brainwashing propaganda. Get home safely. And that was from Jesse Lee Peterson's YouTube channel from several years back, actually. Not full-blown, several years back. It has a picture of Simba, all scared, the lion. But it's from 2016. We saw this PSA video called, PSA being a public service announcement video. Get home safely, 10 rules of survival for black teenagers who are stopped by police. As if, it's a survival issue. No, it's a common sense how to act straight. And it was promoted by a Washington Compost article. Black parents take their kids to school on how to deal with police. And it is basically, and it's you know, it's basically they're wolves in sheep's clothing. They're pretending to tell kids. I mean, they are telling kids, put your hands on the steering wheel if you're an adult and you're driving, or a pre-adult and you're driving. Be respectful and all that stuff. Yes, those are true things that they should be doing, right? But the underlying thing that they're telling them is that police are more likely to kill you and stuff like that. What an evil thing to whisper into the minds of children. And Jesse Lee Peterson did a whole church service back in January of 2017. Does anybody love black youth? Because they're not getting the truth anywhere. A whole church service. I'd recommend checking it out. If it's not available on audio podcast, I'll make sure to put it up later. I'm the church producer, right? But it is up there on the YouTube channel. Bond Rebuilding the Man YouTube channel. A clip from the recent service, July 5th. Oprah plus 100 black fathers rob the light from their sons. Because they're teaching this to the sons especially. Because it's the black males who are the most at risk, right? And it was also put out on Jesse Lee Peterson's YouTube channel. That was the Bond Rebuilding the Man YouTube channel, but Jesse Lee Peterson's YouTube channel. Oprah delights at the thought of children having their innocence taken away. And that's true. Doesn't she look so evil there? Because she is. And you see, who's that guy who puts out those movies with Medea? Tyler Perry. He didn't want to do it, but he did do it, and so ridiculous. And I told you about this article, how blacks teach kids hate, blame, and victimhood. So I have a couple of more in-depth stuff. Michelle Alexander. This is the woman, she was interviewed, by the way, in 2015, or maybe, no, it was well before 2015. I think I put it out in 2015. It was before I was producer of the Jesse Lee Peterson show. I think it was when one of the other producers prior to me, they brought her on to talk about her book called The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness. This woman is supposed to be a Christian. She's married to a guy who was in Obama's DOJ, I think. And she was in the ACLU, anti-American organization that pretends they're for so-called civil liberties, but really they push false black victimhood. They push for people to have abortions. This is her, Michelle Alexander. She looks like she's mixed, and sometimes these mixed people, I don't know, like they have to make up for being more light-skinned by being extra radical. It's quite common. Her, Jason Williams, who was a guy who was on some TV show, doctor TV show, and then he's like paying homage to the black women, black mothers. Anyways, Michelle Alexander, after this Michael Brown incident in, I guess it was 2014 or so, her 10-year-old son wanted her to reassure him. This is from Jesse Lee Peterson's article, How Blacks Teach Kids Hate, Blame, and Victimhood, WorldNet Daily, December 2015. This is what she claimed, right? Don't worry, honey. This is what she says that she told her 10-year-old son at the time. Don't worry, honey. You have nothing to worry about. Nothing like this could ever happen to you. Referring to when Michael Brown was shot in the street, right? In Ferguson, Missouri, by Officer Darren Wilson. And it came out that it was clear self-defense. He was 18-year-old, gentle giant Michael Brown. And then there were riots afterwards when they did not indict the officer. Former officer, he had to resign or he was fired for doing his job, honestly. She said, don't worry, nothing like this could ever happen to you. His face brightens as he tells me that he likes the police. See? Kids like the police. And that he always waves back. His innocence is radiating from him now. Then she reverses course. This is Michelle Alexander. My face is flushing red. See, that's the white part of her. I don't know. Maybe she's not white, but whatever. I am embarrassed. I have lied, is what she calls that. And I am angry. I am angry that I have to tell my son that he has reason to worry. Wow, instilling fear. Just like what Jesse Lee Peterson criticized that Southern mother, Tammy. because she dressed up as a hobo and talked to the kids. Don't talk to strangers. I don't know. So it's not just the blacks, right? It's mothers do this a lot. But anyways, female-minded males too now. Black males. She says, I am angry that I have to tell my son he has reason to worry. I am angry I have to tell him that I already know that Darren Wilson won't be indicted, meaning charged with murder or whatever, because police officers are almost never indicted when they kill unarmed black men, which is a buzzword. Because so-called being unarmed, oftentimes they're fighting over a weapon or they're fighting with the cops. There's lots of stuff going on. Every killing of an unarmed man is not unjustified. In fact, I would venture to say that most police killings of unarmed people are justified, but she's a dishonest person. Look at that short-haired feminist woman. She says, I begin telling him the truth, so-called truth, right? And his face contorts. The glowing innocence is wiped away, and his eyes flash first with fear, then anger. No, he erupts. There has to be a trial. If you kill an unarmed man, don't you at least have to have a trial? Not necessarily. Not if there's... Oh, man. That's too close. There's a picture of her right next to me. So, no, there's not necessarily supposed to be a trial. If there's not enough evidence to convict him of... If there's no evidence to convict him, then no, you don't have to have a trial, little boy. And she's supposedly still married, by the way. This is not a single mother doing this. This is a mother of with a so-called husband. So here's another guy. Isn't that evil? Here's another guy. Not teaching logic and not teaching calmness, confidence, actual love, actual balanced, actual... It's crazy. Another popular book, Between the World and Me. Some of you guys may have heard of this. Some of you guys may have seen it in that Eraserhead. No, not Eraserhead. Eraser Part 2 with that... What's that black actor who looks like... he played... whatever. He played Malcolm X. Somebody tell me. But he was seen in this movie recently, Denzel Washington. He appeared in this action movie, and he's like kind of older now, but he appeared in a part 2 or part 3 of some action movie, and he's seen on a train wearing this, like, I don't know if it's like a black Muslim hat, but whatever, and he's reading this book, Between the World and Me, by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates. T-A-N-E-H-I-S-I. And I learned that spells Ta-Nehisi. Whatever. But his last name is Coates, and he's the son of a radical, Black Lives Matter, Black Panther. And this radical female, Toni Morrison, called it required reading. Oh yeah, there he is, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Black intellectual, propped up by the Atlantic. Supposedly he's a good writer. I haven't really seen it. No, not Spike Lee. So he wrote this Between the World and Me book as a letter to his teenage son at the time about the supposed harsh realities being black in America. So predictably, and this was written, at the time of the Darren Wilson, Michael Brown incident, when former officer, Darren Wilson was not indicted in Michael Brown's death, Coates' son retreated to his room and cried. Why would a teenager cry about this? Because of the brainwashing. It's no surprise that Coates' father was a Black Panther, like I said, like father, like son again. Black comedian W. Kamau Bell. W. Kamau Bell, also obsessed with this racism thing. He says, I talk about race and racism in my act a lot because he's a comedian. Some would say too much. It was how I was raised. Some families have hardware stores. My family has thinking about racism. This is Kamau Bell. I always mispronounce his last name. He tells the story of this evil man that I have to read to you, right? Kamau Bell, he told this story about this incident where he's married to a white woman, a white lady, and he was at a cafe in Berkeley, California. far left liberal city. And she was sitting outside with some white female friends and her babies. And Bell is a 6'4" black dude with this wild hair, right? And he approached holding a book, and one of the mothers asked him about the book, so he showed it to her. And according to him, a server in Berkeley, probably a liberal server, on the inside of the cafe mistook him for a street person, like a homeless, harassing the women and children. And she rapped on the glass and made a gesture for him to scram. And that was supposed to be racism. So he blogged about this incident. The owner apologized to him, and the employee was fired. He's getting people fired over this. But that doesn't have to do with him brainwashing his children, right? He took part in an event publicizing this incident. A black high school senior, Khadija Means, I think that's a woman, young lady, high schooler at the time, spoke that she learned about race at a really young age, maybe like age 2 or 3, this young girl, according to a story told by Kamau Bell. She concluded, focus less on color blindness, be more color competent. So Bell was so impressed with Khadija that he began to think about her dad. Khadija was completely versed in the evils of racism. I wanted some advice on how to raise a kid like that. Evil, huh? So he and his producer set up a meeting with Khadija's father, Cliff Means. That's a black dude. At 5, this is what Cliff Means says about his daughter, Khadija. I think it's a daughter, yeah. At 5, I taught her about slavery, that Europe went to war with West Africa for centuries. Why didn't black people fight back? Well, they did, and were slaughtered and terrorized and tortured and murdered and raped. And he says he probably left out the rape at that age for her at 5. Oh yeah, very prudent, sir. She learned, this is this guy talking, this father of a 5-year-old daughter, saying she learned that there were black cooks grinding up glass in the kitchen to make sure that the white race's brutal slave masters' intestines would bleed and open and then would be gone. Crazy, huh? And that's in an audio recording. He recorded this. Sick, huh? And they're all laughing. And what did she learn from all this? Khadija, the girl, high schooler by this point. After my dad told me about racism, I distinctly remember being angry with white people. How dare you enslave my people? What white people? She's like this is 2015 at this point. So at a church function, 5-year-old Khadija told the congregation that black people and white people should not be together. Interesting. So Kamau Bell says, was there a white person in her life that you felt, talking to the dad, like if she finds out about all white people that she's going to hate this one person who's actually, a nice person? He said, oh no, absolutely not. I'm not concerned about the white man in America. That is her dad talking. And it's quite common, especially the more radicals. And these are educated ones. Kamau Bell, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Michelle Alexander, so-called education. You know how they're talking about blacks need education? Nope. Not this education. It's indoctrination from the parents. Bell says, when I first began to really understand the violence of racism, I was angry. It makes sense to be angry, he says. The anger helps you push back against the injustice. Anger is not the goal, it's the fuel. What a sick, misguided person, huh? So Jesse says there is never an excuse to be angry. It's a setup from the devil. Only purpose to destroy you, your children. It's crazy. So this stuff, when I see these signs, I'm like, oh yeah, because it's not shocking to me because I've seen it so frequently. It's shocking, but it's just rampant, I had to share that with you. Oh, by the way, here's one more. Just for you guys. Jane Elliiott. Remember her? She's an old lady. So this has been going on for generations. Jane Elliiott. I think she's still alive. She's Oprah's anti-racism indoctrinator. She's appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show before Oprah came out full-blown radical black. Back when she was well-liked by the whites. I mean, she still is well liked by the whites. She ran from Jesse Lee Peterson. We got her on the show after I saw some viral video on Facebook from way back in the day. June 2015, we brought her on. Former elementary school teacher Jane Elliiott talks about reacting after MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., was assassinated. Because she was a school teacher at the time. She said it was hatred and racism. And she wants to rename it colorism. They have colorism too, by the way. Where you prefer like lighter skin over dark. And then the light-skinned people feel bullied by the dark and vice versa. It's crazy. She said that all people descended from black women, she discriminated against in her experiment to show kids what racism felt like, being the victim of racism. She discriminated against blue-eyed kids because she had mostly whites and treated brown-eyed kids like the best. And this was how she taught them of how black people feel when discriminated against by whites, or how Nazis treated the Jews in Germany. Because I think she might be Jewish. I think she is. So she's definitely not Christian, or definitely not the real kind of Christian. I think she might pretend like she's Christian. I forget. But anyways, she said that Jesse Lee Peterson, in this interview with her, check it out, said that she traumatized those kids, which is true, making them suffer. And he asked how the parents reacted too, because if he was a parent, he would have pulled his kid out of school. And she calls herself an educator, drawing out people out of their ignorance. And she said, listen to this, she said that whites are scared that people of color are going to outnumber them and will treat them the way whites have treated the people of color, which is not true. Because the way that the POCs and the anti-racists and the so-called whites, in some cases they are actually whites, but sometimes they're not, are treating the whites, it's way worse than they're treated the blacks in most cases, right? It's an injustice stuff. It's sick. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this honor replaced by dishonor. You know that they're renaming schools? There's this school named Robert E. Lee High School in Fairfax County, Virginia. Got a new name, John R. Lewis High School. Renamed after the late congressman and so-called civil rights icon. It was from a vote from the Fairfax County School Board, I think. Talk about ignorance, and they're tearing down the statues. Robert E. Lee was much more honorable of a man than John Lewis, and he was much more of a Christian, and John Lewis pretended to be a Christian. I went over the stuff that John Lewis is about. It's all sick. Anyways, thank you to Yusef K subscribing on the HakeReport.com. No, on DLive.tv/the Hake Report. Just call me Jesse Lee Peterson. So I just had to share that with you. Sick stuff. Teachers, parents, the media. The media has been promoting nasty stuff. And those are examples of real child abuse. But people don't realize it. People don't see it that way. I got to get to some calls. Samuel in Sweden has been on hold for some time. Samuel, thank you for holding. What's up?
I'm doing well, actually, and I wanted to call in because you're the reason that I'm going to start a video stream at YouTube.
You're going to do what?
I'm going to start a stream on YouTube this Sunday.
Wow, right on.
And I'm going to start it when you, at 9 a.m. Californian time, when you quit your show.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, because I'm now on Monday through Friday, 2 hours, and I quit my Sunday show because I'm doing 10 hours a week, and then I'm getting ready for church. So cool. Appreciate you filling that space for me.
Yeah, because you really left the space, and I was like, oh no, that was important for me to watch you before the church service, and then okay, I start a stream, and I don't know how this will go. I'm just winging it.
Right on. I'll be sure to check it out. So what time will that be in Sweden when you start?
It will be at 6 p.m.
Wow. Interesting. That's cool. I wish you well with that. Check it out,
Yeah,
guys.
I mean,
Samuel Freiholz.
yeah, exactly. I have 33 subscribers.
Right on.
And but I don't know how it will grow, but I'm gonna have it every Sunday at 9 a.m. Californian time. The same time you had your show.
Cool,
About
man.
1 hour, I guess. And
Don't get arrested.
well, it's a great possibility because I have done some research in hate crime laws in Sweden, and nobody really knows if anything is a hate crime because it has to be tried. Every single case must be tried in a court. And even there was a Christian pastor who was accused of hate crime.
Right.
He was convicted. He got jail in the first court. Then he went to another court and he was freed. And then he went to the Supreme Court of Sweden. And they said, well, we don't think he made a crime to get to jail. But if anyone else says negative things about homosexuals, we may decide that they made a hate crime.
Wow.
So nobody really knows. It's like, it's insanity. But I have to do it.
That's how they do it. These people, everything is vague so that they can selectively enforce. It's kind of like with these YouTube strikes. It's all very subjective, and they're the haters. They're the ones who are hating. So
I have
crazy.
to ask you a thing also. I don't know, perhaps a bit later into the stream, but would you like to be my first guest?
Possibly so. Yeah, hit me up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would be amazing. So, but I'm probably just going to talk about things that I want to talk about, and let's see what's happened. If
All right.
people like it or not.
Cool. All right,
Yeah,
Samuel.
have a great day.
It's good to hear from you. Yeah, just be careful. Be wise. These people, they try to get at you. They
Well,
and I'm talking about people who may call in or comment or whatever. They will try to get under your skin, and just because you disagree with them doesn't make you good. You have to be perfect too. Otherwise, nobody's going to fall for it.
With callers, because I don't have the technology really yet, but I'm looking into it. But right now it will just be a chat, I guess.
Yeah, some people use Discord to take calls, and I don't know how they pull that off, but people do it. So
it will be interesting anyway.
Yep.
But have a really, really great day in California, and I hope I see you on Sunday.
Right on, Samuel. Okay, take care, man.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Man. You guys can support on streamlabs.com/The Hake Report, as well as DLive.tv/ Oh, shoot. I forgot to switch over. I may be missing a bunch of stuff. Because I log into Jesse Lee Peterson's Streamlabs. I mean, not Streamlabs, but DLive. And I forgot to switch back over. I probably have a bunch of stuff. Oh, man. Well, let me shout out these people. I don't know what you guys have given. I've completely forgot about that part. I wonder if Dark Side of the Bear what? Hey, Dark Side of the Bear what? Did you send me super chats or anything? Let me look. I don't think she sent me any because Dark Side of the Bear what is a person on DLive. Follow her. She's on DLive, and ordinarily she has in the past screenshotted super chats, but I forgot to log in to I didn't realize that I was logged into the Jesse Lee Peterson DLive, so I missed all of your super chats. But thank you to Dielectric Bear, and it is spelled Dielectric Bear, Monterey Bear, and Calm in the Chaos. Calm in the Chaos on DLive as top contributors. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you to Joe Maddock and Big Mamajas or Mamajas, Hydro PX, Stu Tay, Flo Shinsky, Simp No Mo, nice, and Diego Cia, or Kia, Diego _ CEA. Thank you guys for the support. Yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson, just so you guys know, Hose Clamp is asking, is not on YouTube anymore. Actually, he is still on YouTube. His YouTube channel, Jesse Lee Peterson, is still on YouTube, guys. It has a fallacious, what I am to assume is a fallacious copyright strike. It was a takedown notice on the June 29th, 2020 show. Takedown notice from Sony Music Entertainment Japan Incorporated, comma. And they claim that Jesse Lee Peterson used some copyrighted content. I don't see it. I don't know that it's the truth. Oh, I do see some of the super chats. Thank you, Dark Side of the Bear. What? And it says information available upon request when it says in the section that says which content we used. Ordinarily, it says what content we used, whether it's a strike or just a flag, a copyright flag. Flag means they're making money off of you, big deal. Our channel's not even monetized because of imaginary hate speech. So anyway, we're temporarily suspended for 90 days and we got the notification July 22nd, 21st, 23rd, something like that. So more than 3 weeks after the show streamed, the June 29th show streamed, we get this copy strike. And it was the next day after we got an imaginary hate speech violation and takedown, which was not a strike, but they took down our stream the day before. Towards the end of the stream, like 8:45, or maybe even 8:42, we got the email 8:52 from YouTube that they took down our stream. It was nowhere to be found for imaginary hate speech. And we don't know what they never tell you when it's a hate speech thing. They never tell you. They say, figure it out. But it was in the middle of Jesse Lee Peterson covering this naked protester woman. I think he called her a slut. But anyways, interesting, huh? So Dark Side of the Bear, what? Gave a diamond, says, already sent to your email, diamond report, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Big Mama Joss says, kids stop everything to hear Hake's intro every day. Appreciate that. Stu Tay gave a diamond and says, indoctrination for years. Yeah. Thank you for the subscription, Monterey Bear. Thank you for hosting Dark Side of the Bear. What? Oh yeah, hold on. Why don't schools teach about the firmament? Asks Joe Maddock. I don't know why. I do not know why the schools don't teach about the firmament. I don't even know what the firmament is. I know it's in the Bible. I think it has to do with the sky. Is that the sky? The atmosphere around the earth? Or around in a semisphere? Jesse Lee Peterson hosting the show. Thank you. Appreciate that. Calm in the Chaos says, voting Democrat for 70 years is the problem. No systemic racism. You know, that's part of, it's a symptom. It's a symptom. You got to be blind and brainwashed and immoral to vote Democrat. So they were. Thanks to Hake's dad, we use Saxon math, says Big Mama Has. Yeah. My dad was a teacher. Speaking of white history, right? My dad was a teacher in school, right? I don't think elementary or junior high. I think it was junior high. Junior high means 7th and 8th grade, leading up into high school. and then he became a high school teacher. He's retired now, so you can't dox him and get him fired. I don't know if he's retired, but he's been running his own business, right? Anyways, he was dissatisfied by the fact that with the way that the textbooks were, the kids would just forget the stuff that they learned the week before because it wasn't constant review. So he developed a method where they would practice the stuff that they learned, and then they'd have a problem set, 30 problems or 25 or whatever, and it would be practicing each different thing that they learned so that they would get good at it, automatic, just they would know it. And they would know what to do. They would recognize the type of issue it was. And it actually sinks in better that way. Constant review. That's not the case in these other textbooks. They don't review. And it's an incremental development, right? So you just learn by bits. You don't go all deep into one type of problem and then forget about it the next semester or week. So yeah, he started doing that. And then there was another guy named John Saxon who was very famous. He was selling books out of his trunk, his car trunk. And he was out of Oklahoma or somewhere. And he was covered by 60 Minutes or in some magazine or newspaper. My dad came across it, got in contact with him, and started working with him. He's working for Saxon Publishers. Cool, huh? And then it was bought by Houghton Mifflin or one of those people, Harcourt. You know, these big textbook companies, and then they kind of just let it drop off. And then also another corrupting influence in the education world was these states, and the federal government too was involved. But the states started getting these standards, and that they had these state tests, so that all of the textbooks had to develop around helping the kids quote unquote test well based on these standards. And they also had to have inclusive language and references to these different things. And it was so ridiculous to try to keep up with each state's different standards, and states would have adoption processes so that you would adopt a new textbook. And then these textbook companies too, they have this racket where they come up with a new edition and you have to buy the new edition even though it's not different from the old one. And that's how they keep on making money. Meanwhile, the old one is perfectly good. It's such a racket. It's awful in the college world because the college students actually have to buy their own textbooks. It's such a racket. Anyways, corruption in the so-called education world. Handicapped blacks need 10 steps rules for survival. Referring to that propaganda video. Apple's logo is forbidden knowledge. Interesting, says Joe Maddox. Thank you to Hydro PX for the diamond. Joe Maddox says, Apple's logo, forbidden knowledge. Interesting. Huh. Dielectric Bear says, Bill Barr let a black woman walk all over him. I'm not sure what you mean, but if it's true, it may come out. Calm in the Chaos says, viral video of doctors on hydroxychloroquine. Amazing. I saw in Revolver, how Tucker Carlson said, Drudge is far left. Go to Revolver. In short, he didn't say that exactly, but he said Revolver, I think, is it revolver.news, guys? I just saw your note about science. Big facts. Is it revolver.news? Yeah, and a headline, and I haven't clicked into it to verify or not, right? But a headline said Bolsonaro did not get into any critical condition or anything. He's not suffering like that guy from Boris Johnson, the guy from England. And he took hydroxychloroquine, according to the story. Interesting. I don't really know what to think of Bolsonaro. I don't know if he's a solid guy or if people are just excited about him because he seems like a pretty good imitation of Trump. Boris Johnson, people are excited about him, but he's like a cheap imitation of Trump. He doesn't seem like a solid guy to me. I hope that that people, I hope that Brexit works out. I hope the people of England wake up. A lot of them are. Some of them are calling into the Jesse Lee Peterson show. elsewhere too. So, just FYI. Firmament, noun. The heavens or the sky, especially when regarded to as a tangible thing. A sphere or world viewed as a collection of people. I think it's the first definition. That's what a firmament is. Thank you to Dark Side of the Bear What, also known as Barely News. Bearly. Barely News. It's a news source. So appreciate you guys. Let me just double check this Streamlabs. Okay. So I got to get to Earl in Michigan. Earl, my second favorite caller. We're coming up on 10 a.m. U.S. Pacific Daylight Time. I've talked you guys' ear off. I think I'm feeling energetic. I don't think, you know what? Maybe I should take a break. Earl, hang tight. I will get you I really appreciate you hanging on. I do appreciate it. I'm going to take an early break. Just a couple of minutes here. It's good for my beta back to stand up. I have been walking. Baby steps, right? Pretty soon I'll be jogging, push-ups and stuff. Don't make fun of me. You can't make fun of me. It's fine. I'll be right back, guys. So hang tight. We're going to go into hour 2. I will start right off with Earl, my second favorite caller. He wants to talk about the Confederate flag. I got a lot of you guys on hold. Want to talk about white history heroes. Stu Ray says, here comes Earl to get offended. I don't know. Well, yeah. I told him that he does not support free speech because he supports Democrats who are just outright evil. They're like off the deep end, extreme. And yet he goes right along with them. And I think it's because of, I suspect maybe it's because of hatred of whites. But, you know, all of you guys hang tight. I'll be right back. Enjoy this song, courtesy of Chris and... We are back. This is the Hake Report. I'm James Hake, and I said, oh, somebody talked about the black woman walking all over Bill Barr. The Honorable William P. Barr, who is the Attorney General of the United States. He took the place of Loretta Lynch. How is he ever going to fill her shoes? And Obama's wingman, Eric Holder. He called himself Obama's wingman when he was on some black radio show. Very famous black radio show, actually. But Karen Bass, whom Jesse Lee Peterson has debated at Politicon, check it out on the Jesse Lee Peterson channel. And so, yeah, she was grilling Barr. I thought that they delayed it because of the car accident, alleged car accident. Maybe they just delayed it by, 30 minutes? Nadler, Fat Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, was supposedly in a car accident. I told you about it in Hake News. And now this guy with big hair, Matt Gaetz, a Republican from Florida. I kind of call him, is it uncharitable to call him a rhino? He's kind of hit and miss. He's a young guy. I think he might even be younger than me. I don't know how Ethan Ralph of the Ralph Retort, the Kill Stream, shout out, goes a 3-hour show, no breaks. Jeez. He's not too bad, referring to Matt Gaetz, says Chris. But science is, so-called science, very politicized. And it has been for a long time. I got to get to my second favorite caller, as promised. Earl in Michigan. Been on hold forever. So I appreciate it, Earl. Let's hope he's not snoring. Hey, Earl, how you doing?
I should be as long as you take. But, hola.
Hola. Nice to hear from you. How come you say hola? Just out of curiosity.
Because I want to.
I know, but what prompts you to say it?
You still want an answer.
Yeah.
Because I want to is not good enough. Just accept that because I want to, because I can.
But why? Where did you learn that word hola?
Why? Why? It's like Jesse said, why?
I think he might have gotten it from me, to be honest.
And stop sounding like a Quinby and let's get on with it.
He's not going to tell us where he learned the word hola. Bonus deers.
But you got to be careful what you ask for. You asked for a lion to speak up, and you got what you wished.
He wasn't evil. He was pretty evil.
No, it's just pretty straightforward. As we say, it got a little expressive. But sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes it's expressed not so eloquently or nicely. It's just point blank and frank.
That's what I should tell you guys when you guys call me racist, because you're all mad at me for telling the truth about blacks. I should be like, the truth hurts.
We calling a spade a spade.
Whoa, you can't say that. That's racist.
We see what you are. We see what you say. You know, if you walk like a duck, talk like a duck, chances are it's a duck. You might deny it, but you're still a
Only
duck.
racism. Nobody's ever seen racism. Racism is an imaginary duck. It's a mystical duck. It's a duck with a unicorn thing on it.
You can use all these semantics and double talk, but we know racism exists. It has.
Then how come you repeat racist idioms and phrases like calling a spade a spade? That's racist. Did you know that? A spade is a reference to a black person, I think.
In some cases.
Yeah.
And sometimes a spade is just a spade. A duck is just a duck.
All right. Anyways, you wanted to talk.
Put anything in its place.
Move on.
You can put anything in its place. It means the same thing. And you can deny what you are, but the reality is that's what you are.
Whatever.
Now, we don't have to We don't have to go around in circles. About
Wasn't it funny how he pretended not to care that whether or not I'm racist, but it was important for him to know, that I know, that he knows, and we knows that James is a racist.
Wasn't
that so phony?
The point that you're a clown and let you know you're
No, he didn't call me a clown, though.
Doesn't mean you have to care that you're a clown. It means that he sees right through you.
No, but he didn't call me a clown.
Anybody,
I don't think he called me a clown.
Except your blind followers that believe the same nonsense you believe.
Are clowns funny?
We know you don't believe in
Hey, Earl.
Joe tried to tell you facts.
Are clowns... Earl! Are clowns funny? Or are clowns a joke?
Hell no. Nah.
Clowns are not funny or a joke. Are they scary? Are clowns scary?
Don't talk about this nonsense. Trying to get
because you're comparing being a racist to being a clown. And I tend to agree that this whole racism thing is a joke.
You can't deal with facts.
Huh?
Joe tells you facts. Lion tells you facts. T tells you facts. Maze tells you facts. You put your hands in your ears and pretend you don't hear it. You can deny it. You're not about facts. You're about spreading a certain ideology of propaganda.
Isn't it interesting, guys, how these guys, they're describing themselves when they're criticizing us. Like, you tell them all the facts and they just put their hands in their ears and deny it. And they just accuse you of being what they are. That's what they're doing.
And you claim you don't?
I claim that you are being what you're accusing us of. Stubborn,
you claim you don't do that?
blind.
You don't have a certain ideology, a certain agenda, a certain philosophy, a right-wing type of spin that you promote. That's why you back up Dylan and people
Dylan
like
Roof.
that.
I don't back him up.
Roof.
I'm just telling you part of what happened. Part of what happened with
about what happened?
You care what happened. Don't pretend you don't care.
Nobody cares what happened.
Yeah, they do. How come they call in arguing with me about Dylan Roof all the time? Please. Part of what happened with Dylan Roof was he got this constant...
We don't need to rehash that.
No. I feel like rehashing it. I'm the host. I get to do what I want. I'm grown.
You're stupid like that.
Thank you. Yeah, so Dylan Roof, he got this constant propaganda. He was younger than me, right? I was probably 35 when he did his crime, right? And maybe younger. But he was like 21 or 22 at this time. 2015, whenever he committed this terror attack, trying to start a race war, right? In the church. No, hold on, man. I'm telling the story. I will give you your time.
It takes forever to tell the story.
I know, but it's very interesting to me. And I think my viewers don't mind it. And he was, many of you guys are his age or a little older. He's still alive, right? So roughly his age. He was constantly taught this thing about whites are racist and racism is this big deal. And then he Googles black on white crime and realizes that, what the heck, all this crime is from blacks towards whites. And everybody knows that it's not just aggression, outright aggression towards whites that's disproportionate, because many people are not aware of it. But it's also passive-aggressive attacks on whites. Any little thing that a white says, racist, or sexist, or stupid stuff like that. And so you discovered that, in reality, whites are the ones under attack. And so you overreacted to that, wanted to start a race war. And it's systemic, by the way. And so he thought that the race war was the answer. And it's not, but he's blind, and I think that he's still unrepentant, actually. JLP Peterson wanted to get him on the show. I tried to get him on the show. I contacted the jail where he was, and then the prison. I think they tried the prison.
Long story about nothing.
And so he hold on, man. Hold on.
Proves is what?
It proves that facts are. Hold on. Hey, Earl. Earl, shh. Hush.
You can't let him.
I put him on hold. Because he asked what it proves. It proves. Earl, you're on hold, so nobody can hear you. Just so you know, you're on hold. So it proves that facts are not truth, because he discovered some facts that were hidden facts, actually. And so he discovered facts about, the attack on whites and all those things. And blacks are committing the disproportionate rapes when it comes to interracial rapes, right? And whites are getting stamped out. And it's all this big propaganda ploy lie. But he wasn't about truth, so he committed something that had nothing to do with what's right. So it shows you that the cherry-picked facts that the blacks are into, or that a few of the whites are into, but much more in cases of blacks, 1619 Project, hello? That's not just blacks who are into that. That's the whole Democrat Party, and many rhinos are falling for this 1619 Project, this narrative of black victimhood. It's systemic racist from the root of, United States. 1619 Project being a reference to how we started slavery because we're so racist, America. Slavery was not racist, by the way. It's not even a real thing, right? But it wasn't racist. They were the ones who were available. And so we wanted more and more and more. I say we, but the people back then. I never really wanted a slave. I was glad when my little brother was born, so I didn't have to do all the work around my house. My older brothers were mad when I said that because they thought that I was the most spoiled and lazy. But so it shows that, yes, he found some facts that happen to be true. And they want to hide the fact that he found some factual information. They want to blame the Council of Conservative Citizens website and many other websites that he visited as if that's what radicalized him, when in fact, it was the lies, the blatant lies that were every bit as responsible for radicalizing this young man. And in all honesty, it was poorly raised. He had a messed up family situation. He was on drugs, just like many of the blacks who commit these crazy crimes. So that's my point, Earl. I'll let you have the last 30 seconds. Go for it.
Well, I wanted to talk about something totally different about your president, but
he's yours too. He's your president.
You try to be slick. You try to go off, cut people off, put your little 2 cents in.
They were not little. They were big 2 cents.
No, you're a big liar. Talking about it wasn't slavery. You have no idea that slavery in the United States was racial. That's a proven fact. You can deny it all you want to. But I thought your president was like
Who cares?
women.
Who cares if the blacks were the primary ones enslaved?
Last I checked, little boy. Last I checked, did you worship a little lion hero? He didn't like losers. He criticized John McCain because he got captured. Last I checked.
In actuality, Earl, he criticized John McCain because he lost the election. He just piled on with he was captured thing.
That's what he said. He don't like losers.
Yeah, that's why he said he didn't like losers, because he was a loser who lost the election. He lost against Barack Obama because he was a kiss-up.
And all of them are losers, like you. They're losers.
Whatever.
They're deniers. That's why they have to pump them up, because they're losers. They lost.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Confederate and your president that wants to pump up everything Confederate, monuments and everything else. They were losers.
You know who else is a loser? Or was a loser? No. Now he's dead. John Lewis. He's just like John McCain, resting on his laurels. John McCain was captured and tortured, and so he's a so-called hero. And John Lewis was allegedly beat up. I haven't seen evidence of it. Allegedly beat up, and so he was a hero. Ridiculous. And they didn't do anything but attack and do evil towards their own people, meaning the American people. including the blacks,
That's another
and
lie
for
you
the
give
whole
us.
rest of the
Oh, no,
decades
there's
that they
no miracle
so-called
story.
served
It's made
in the
up
government.
stuff.
So phony.
Made up stuff. Your little white wing twisted lies that it makes you sleep at night. I mean, you can make up stuff, little fairy tales, so you can justify your hate for black folks. But you're not fooling nobody.
All right, Earl. Nice talking with you, man. Adios.
Nice talking to you,
Cool.
phony.
Phony. Yeah, you stole my word. Oh, no. Too early for Earl's mess, says Davey1350. I know. It's a commie tactic to call people racist, says HydroPX. Yes, indeed. And by commie, we mean evil. It's an evil tactic. And it is communist, too. It's anti-American, honestly, to call people so-called racist. So don't fall for it. Unless you're calling evil people racist. You can, like, for fun. Dark Side of the Bear, what? With a diamond says, deal with it, Earl. Stop being disrespectful. He black. Joe Maddox says, Earl spends half his day listening to men he hates. Talk about loser, huh? Joe Maddox says, black men like Earl excuse black degeneracy. Yeah. You know why I know that he's radical and deluded and blind? Because look how far the Democrat Party has fallen just in his lifetime. They pretended that they weren't for this homosexuality stuff, and now they're way for it. And he's old enough to know better and to still have some common sense, but he doesn't. He just excuses his continued support for pure evil, destruction. Joe Maddow gave a diamond and says, will Rachel Maddow be replaced by a black lesbian? Is that woman... I don't want to speculate. Joy Reid, I don't want to speculate. Joe Maddox, but I do see her on Tumblr. No, she's not on Tumblr. She's on Twitter. She's on Black Twitter. Joe Maddox gave a diamond and said, Flint, Michigan ranks as the most miserable city. Wonder why? It's a good question. You too can support via DLive.tv/The Hake Report or Streamlabs.com/The Hake Report. Before I get to calls, hang tight, guys. I will get to you. I want to talk a little bit more. I got this from Fox 5 DC. I basically told you the story before the end of the first hour about honor, men of honor, you know, historical men of honor, right? They're dead now. Being replaced in their being honored, rightly honored, by dishonorable men. Honor replaced with dishonor, calling good evil and evil good. Robert E. Lee. I've told you about General Robert E. Lee towards the beginning of White History Month. It might have even been the first day. No, I don't think it was the first day because I talked about the Declaration of Independence. But it was early in White History Month, which is early this July, right? When I started doing 2 hours. There's a Robert E. Lee High School in Fairfax County, Virginia. And that was his home state, by the way. He was faithful to Virginia. But Virginia is unfaithful to him. I mean, he's dead now. So if you want to be shallow, you can say, oh, it doesn't matter, he's dead. But it does matter because people are forgetting or not knowing why he was an honorable man. They're believing a caricature, a communist caricature, I might add, that he was they call him a traitor, which is not what he was. They call him a loser, which is not what he was, and all those things. Yes, he surrendered, right, to Ulysses S. Grant. So he surrendered. I guess you could call him a loser in that sense. But even in losing, he had his dignity, and they respected and honored one another. Very few people were in the Confederacy were called traitors or accused of treason or anything of the sort. They wanted to break away from the United States. They wanted to secede from the Union. That's not being a traitor. That's wanting to leave because you felt that they were not representing you anymore. They felt that the federal government was oppressive towards them. And so Fairfax County School Board in Virginia voted to give it a new name, Robert E. Lee High School to John R. Lewis High School. And John Lewis, as I told you, he was pro partial birth abortion. He was he was against school choice, which, you know, the government shouldn't even be involved in these schools. But the government is corrupt. The people are corrupt. Everybody's corrupt for the most part, right? He was for hate crimes laws, increasing hate crimes laws, and the so-called Voting Rights Act, as if people don't already have the right to vote. And hate crimes laws, by the way, I might add, is I would say, like communist wedge to push in the attack on free speech. Because what is a hate crime? It is an assault or something, maybe a what is it called when you do graffiti? Whatever that is. One of those things. Vandalism. The Vandals took down Rome, right? Weren't they part of those? Anyways. And now they're doing it to America too. Real vandalism. Evil. Just spray painting up buildings and beautiful statues and everything. Destroying property like crazy, destroying businesses. It's crazy. But anyways, if you vandalize and you say the N-word or you put a Nazi, the swastika, the Hakenkreuz, Hakenkreuz, you do any of that stuff, it's a bad word or whatever. It references race or it references women. Hate crime. So it's attacking the freedom of speech. It's making the freedom of speech a crime, while in fact the act of the vandalism or the assault or the murder or maybe the rape, I guess, sometimes they could be considered that. Instead of those things being the crime, it is enhanced by the words that somebody allegedly used, or the signs that they allegedly used, or the context for the case of this young autistic man who had a single mother, I think, and had an anger problem. Police had been called to his house. He was kind of living with his mother and then living away, and then got a free car from his uncle or something like that. This guy who drove into the crowd, they called that a hate crime in the city of Charlottesville, Virginia, where he drove into the crowd after the Charlottesville riots in which Antifa was attacking the alt-right. He drove into the crowd. They looked at his Facebook post where he was being mad at the liberals, right, who are insane, and he doesn't have the right to criticize them without it being an enhancer to the crime of driving into the crowd and getting somebody killed, right? So it was a hate crime. And so it was enhanced and he was put away for life, 400 years. I don't know how long this guy, James Fields, 400 years. Hate crime for the freedom of speech. And you have to give people the freedom of speech. That's love. And you have to give people the right to discriminate, because it's not even giving them, it's allowing them their rights. You can't, like Jesse Lee Peterson makes the point, you can't force people to love you. So it's called a hate crime because of his Facebook posts about the liberals. And therefore, that's an attack on the freedom of speech. Pretty soon they'll have hate speech laws. They use the term hate speech. These so-called American companies use this anti-American term called hate speech. They're every bit as hateful as anybody that they're silencing. Every bit as hateful as anybody that they're silencing. Most murders are committed by liberals, I might add. Blacks are liberals too. But anyways, it's evil. Europe already doesn't have free speech. Canada doesn't have free speech, right? They believe in hate speech. And, it's very selectively enforced, as you heard from Samuel from Sweden. You never know when it's a hate crime. You never know when it's hate speech. You never know when you violated the terms and conditions of Twitter or of YouTube or Facebook. Cernovich, I listen to Cernovich sometimes. Mike Cernovich, he's on Twitter, a journalist guy. he made the point, he's very protective of his Twitter account, right? So he made the point, a white guy in a Twitter debate with a black woman, gonna get the hate speech takedown every time. And sure enough, that's what happened to me. I cited FBI crime stats. That's all I did. I said blacks kill more than twice as many whites as vice versa. I had to delete the tweet in order to get my account back. And I sure did it eventually, right? I complained about it. But yeah. Yeah, some of these guys are wishy-washy. Take care of business bears saying, Cernovich is okay, he's wishy-washy to me. And some people say that, yeah. But, you know, I support him as like a journalist guy. He tries to tell the truth about some things. There's other journalists who are pretty far left who I support. This Michael Tracy guy, because he's like American at heart still. I don't know what it is, this Michael Tracy guy. He goes to the Portland BLM protests and gets screamed at for asking the mayor, is it advisable to be holding a rally during a pandemic? Crazy. And this pandemic stuff is going nuts. So anyway, John Lewis was not for the First Amendment. He was not for the Second Amendment. He was an evil, nasty, filthy person. Anyways, and they're honoring him this week. A dishonorable man. Check out that Roger Ailes movie. Has anybody checked it out? I haven't yet. Maninthearena.com. I know it's on Amazon, right? Amazon Prime. You can pay $5 to rent it. I'm just curious. I want to watch it. I'm going to get to some calls. I'm going to reference these monuments being ruined by Democrats and rhinos and of course, the mob. Joe Maddock gave a diamond and said, Earl and fat radical Michael Moore are besties. Interesting. Flint, Michigan, as one of the most, it was one of the most miserable city. Mel from Atlanta was more entertaining than Earl, says Joe Maddock. Yeah. Daisy 1350, it takes one hate crime because they function on emotion. It was a hate crime because they function on emotion. Yeah, I mean, they use anything to accuse anybody of whatever they want. It's so ridiculous. You know, they lie blatantly about what Trump does and says. He tells the truth and they call it a lie. It's crazy. Let me quickly get to some calls, though. Ryan in Concord, California. Hopefully he's not snoring. Ryan, thanks for holding. What's up?
I'm just kidding. What's up, James?
Nothing much. How about you?
That call with Earl was so funny. I was dying.
Right on. He is an interesting person.
I like when he tries to
I think
repeat Jesse's sayings. That's really funny when he does that.
Did you hear Maze call me beta or something? She called somebody beta. She used the word beta yesterday.
No, I didn't.
Towards the end of the show, I think it was. It's funny. Anyways.
But anyway, yeah, no, I just wanted to call and give you a little white history hero because the month is almost over.
Yeah.
And just real quickly, when I call and give history, I'm just giving brief histories, and these
problem.
are just people who have influenced me, and I've been appealed to. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with talking about Julius Caesar from Rome.
Okay.
We all know Julius Caesar. He was one of the greatest military commanders in history. Julius Caesar was born during a time of civil war in the empire, and he wasn't really born into much political power, so he kind of had to make his way through the ranks. And throughout his time in Rome, he did a lot of things economically that I'd like to get into. One of the first things he did is he initiated the integration of Roman territories outside of Italy. So at the time, anybody living outside of Italy was not a Roman citizen, and so therefore didn't have full citizenship rights.
Interesting.
So Julius Caesar took the process to fuse the Roman Empire, from Egypt and Africa and everywhere else into a single unit by granting citizenship outside of Rome. It's kind of like how America, as we conquered the states, we gave citizenships to the people of the states as we conquered them.
Okay.
But yeah, no, on top of that, giving citizenship to individuals outside of Italy, he took a number of measures to relieve the poor. He distributed land outside of Italy to 20,000 people. Now, it sounds kind of like communist and, oh, here's some free land, but it was actually a really good idea because the land that he gave to 20,000 people were actually had to be families that had 3 or more children.
Nice.
So he encouraged large family units to sustain the empire's reach outside of Italy. So that's just kind of something I think Trump should implement. That would be nice. But you know, one of his major accomplishments where he was a military success and he conquered Gaul, which is modern day France. He conquered Britain and
Wow.
he eventually defeated his rival Pompey in a civil war and became the first emperor of the Roman Empire. He was basically was considered the first emperor, but today we coin it to be Augustus instead. But the last cool thing I like about Julius Caesar is he created the calendar, the Julian calendar. In Rome, they had 13 months instead of 12 months.
Yeah.
And they had like 27 days per month. And it was a 355-day year. And so then when Julius Caesar replaced this calendar with an Egyptian-based calendar, which was regulated by the sun, he set the length of the year to 365 days. And basically we have our calendar because of him.
Wow.
And I just like, yeah, just a few cool things that we still use from him today. So I just definitely enjoy reading history. I'm fascinated by Western history, especially the Roman Empire. And I absolutely love how incredible, you know, Rome is like America. It gave individuals the opportunity to have wealth beyond what they did before, which were just in pagan small tribes. Like Rome is basically like America, but back then. And I just really like Julius Caesar because he kind of reminds me of Trump in a way. He like relieves people from unemployment. He brings people out of poverty, and he just encourages people to work. And he's a great military conqueror. So that's
Interesting.
my white history hero.
Appreciate that, Ryan. I didn't know some of that stuff. White history.
Yeah, no, it's dope. Yeah, he definitely is the reason why we have 365 days in the year.
What years was he active, roughly?
So
Or century?
around 60 BC
Okay.
till about, I think, 12 BC or 24 BC.
Did Shakespeare write about him?
Oh, you know what? He was actually assassinated in, I think, 43. I think everybody wrote about him.
What is the play Julius Caesar based on? Who wrote that play? Is it a true
I
story?
couldn't tell you.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
didn't we read Julius Caesar in high school? You didn't? I read it, I think.
I think I did.
I'm a boomer. Yeah, and you know, somebody said that he was Clintoned in the back 37 times, meaning he was stabbed in the back.
Yes,
And he said,
was.
and he said, "Et tu, Brute," because his friend Brutus was part of those who turned on him. I don't know what he did, that he was assassinated by his own bunch of senators or somebody. It's crazy.
Yeah, Brutus.
You know what? They did a
betrayed him
play.
and stuff.
They did a play. You're not the only one who thinks of him as being like Trump. They did a play called Julius Caesar, Caesar in the Park, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And all these
And Trump
people.
was Caesar.
Yeah, and they had a guy who was dressed up as Trump, and they stabbed him in the
That's
back a bunch of times. A bunch of Roman senators?
It's kind of crazy to see like
Disgusting.
history being implemented in our society thousands of years later. That's like
Yeah.
what white people do. We have history that lasts forever. Do you know, have you ever heard the saying, Veni, Vidi, Vici?
Yeah, is that I came, I saw, I conquered?
It is, and Hillary Clinton repeated that when she went to Gaddafi in Libya, and she said, we came, we saw, he died. And then she laughed. Do you
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes. There's a
But
great...
yeah, no, Julius Caesar is so influential throughout our society. It's just crazy to see like how much we still like talk about him and use him for plays and everything.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep, that's cool, man. Appreciate that, Ryan.
For sure, James. All
All
right,
right.
I'll let you go, man.
Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye. You know what? Yeah. Place Boing. You ever heard of Place Boing? PLA. It looks like placebo-ing. He has a channel, great channel. He has some pro-Trump stuff, some Alex Jones remixes, some Breaking Bad remixes and stuff. And one of them is called like Evil Hillary, or Hillary is Evil. And I don't know if it's still up there, but maybe some other channel has it. But it has a remix of her saying, "We came, we saw, he died." It's crazy. It's pretty funny. I think I've played it on the Hake Report years back, or several months back. Anyways, let me quickly get to Lynn out of Chicago, Illinois. Lynn, it's good to hear from you. How are you doing?
Yeah, hey, how you doing there, Hank?
I'm doing fine.
I was gonna say tomorrow, Earl's gonna call in and he's gonna say Julius Caesar was black. So get ready for that. Well, I was gonna tell you about here in Chicago. We had a 10-month-old who was shot by an assassin's bullet, and shortly after,
A stray bullet, I assume.
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure if it was stray or if it was aimed or whatever.
Right.
But usually the knuckleheads on the south side, they blatantly shoot at with no regard.
Right.
Shortly after, they requested a gun buyback. Now, knowing every gun buyback in Chicago has happened in a black neighborhood, never a white neighborhood,
Right.
never a Latino neighborhood. Personally, I would consider this to be racist because white people have guns too.
Right.
But also,
But they're not the ones committing the murders. Anyways.
I was asking many a black citizen if they would consider it racist. My overwhelming response was, no, that ain't racist.
Right.
All the guns that are sold there are dirty guns. And, knowing that, those guns were used in criminal activity, so that's what they're selling back.
Right.
Also, I would like for you to ask Earl, if having gun buybacks strictly and only in black neighborhoods would be racist. And honestly, I would think he would disagree with it, even though, for the most part, blacks take anything that is racist and they say, yeah, that is racist.
Right. Yeah,
ridiculous.
It is. What's funny is sometimes these things that are called racist are the best thing for them. Not that the gun buybacks, I mean, that treats the symptom. But it might actually, I don't know. You hear these dumb Chicago police chiefs, and they're really politicians, complaining about the guns. They say, oh, the guns are coming from Indiana and places outside where the gun control is strict. That's why we need strict gun control countrywide. It is so evil. These people don't care about what's right, and they don't care about stuff that's actually going to help the real problem. It's so typical of and female. It reminds me of, to pick on that caller Tammy from the Jesse Lee Peterson show. They come up with these weird solutions like dress up like a hobo and scare your kids, or test your kids to see if they're going to talk to a stranger, or sell or give away condoms at a black church and stuff like that to prevent teen pregnancy, right? It's so backwards, and they're not for what's right. So ridiculous.
But they are for taking an AK-47 and marching down the streets and pointing it into a vehicle.
You know what? I don't know what the real story is with that. Did he point it or did he not? You're referencing that white man who was fiancés with a black woman, quadruple amputee woman, and he was a Black Lives Matter supporter. And this car comes up. There's some type of confrontation. Who's at fault? I don't know. Did he point it as the driver claimed that he pointed it? I don't know. He may have, or he may not have, but this crazy situation. I saw another situation where this car was blocked, old dude brandishes a gun, and another protester guy, or really rioter, points a gun back at him. And I don't think anybody died in that particular situation, but they were like from me to, oh, you can't see the camera. From like this, they were like this far away from each other. They're like this far away from each other, pointing, one guy pointing right, headshot, and the other guy pointing like this aimed at the heart or whatever. And they're not, it's like they want a war. They want a civil war or something like that. These people are so ridiculous. I'm talking about the media, the people that are denying, like Jerry Nadler, just outright lying and saying, oh, there's not really riots going on. Meanwhile, like, businesses are getting destroyed. These people pretend like they care about the little man. So phony.
Yeah.
Anyways, Lynn? Yeah, go for it.
Well, just for correction, that one young man who was in Texas, he's actually, I think we need to refer to him as a martyr, because that's what they're referring to him as.
Yeah,
out of respect,
it's so funny because I've seen like two different blogs. One blog says that he was murdered, and then the other blog says that he was a terrorist killed in self-defense. And, I don't think that either one of those things is true. I don't think that he was murdered. I think it was a hot situation, and one of them may have been a rookie, maybe both. And he had no business being at the protest. It was a dumb protest. It's a fake issue. It's false black victimhood, and he's out there pretending like he's fighting for what's right. But that's why I brought up this issue that, people go astray in their lives in so many different ways and just waste their lives, get themselves killed sometimes, all for this pride or pleasing a girl because he was pleasing his, protecting his black girlfriend. And it's so unnecessary. Let that be a lesson that you can really get yourself killed. God's not going to just protect you and you can just be wild and stupid. So, anyways.
I think he was under the impression that he was playing Fortnite where he was going to respawn after the shooting or whatever. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Appreciate you, Lynn. Take care, man.
All right, take care, Hank.
All right. Oh my gosh. Okay. By the way, I put a clip from 2016 into the folder that maybe we can play it as the ending song. It's from Place Boing, and I think it's called Hillary is Evil Remix, and I don't think it's up anymore on his YouTube channel, but I got it from him. Follow him on YouTube. It's a great channel. So, and then hopefully it doesn't blast out your ears because it may be kind of loud, but whatever. Just cover your ear. I mean, brace yourselves after I say goodbye. But first, let me get to, before I get to callers, hang tight, Brenda, Gabriel, all you guys, some first-time callers there. Let me just run down this quick article, 183 monuments, and this came out last week at some point. Jesse Lee Peterson tweeted it out, I think. 183 monuments ruined since the protests began and counting, and that doesn't include the maybe dozens or more, or maybe hundreds, I don't know, of monuments that had been defaced, destroyed, torn down, or removed in prior years because of this fake Black Lives Matter thing, right? Jonah Gottschalk writes in The Federalist, 33 statues of Columbus, 9 of the founding fathers, referring to, George Washington, maybe Ben Franklin and others. 8 of Saint Junipero Serra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Serra. I don't know how to pronounce it. You guys know, you Catholics and you Hispanics. This is just since May, just May of this year. They tore down, and others over recent years, including Silent Sam, who was a Confederate soldier, I think. Oh, there was another Confederate soldier, actually. And other Columbus statues, etc. I've told you about that. While Confederate monuments have taken the lion's share of the media coverage, and they're doing that because dumb, brainwashed masses are less sympathetic to the Confederacy because the South has universally been smeared, at least the white Southerners and the Confederacy, has been smeared as racist, defending slavery, and as if that's such a bad thing, and all that. Meanwhile, the Democrats today are far worse than they ever have been, promoting homosexuality as good, which is a disservice to the people who are suffering from that temptation or whatever, and transgender as right, abusing the children, pretending that, just brainwashing the kids to accept everything evil. Abortion, they support killing the old people by way of assisted suicide. Everything that you can think of that's evil, they're for it. By far the most popular, so that's why the media pretends that it's mostly Confederate monuments, but in fact, the Confederate monuments are a minority of the statues targeted, and it's evil to even attack the Confederate statues. By far the most popular target, though, was Christopher Columbus. 33 statues in total having been defaced and pulled down, in some cases by the Democrats. The next most popular targets were Robert E. Lee, 9 statues, Junipero Serra, whatever, 8 statues, Thomas Jefferson, 4 statues. The vast majority of the vandals were never charged, with 177 out of 183 instances having no arrests. Most monuments torn down were not by so-called protesters, but by city officials after pressure or threats from other protesters. And honestly, it was after some attack on the monument or people around the monument, right? There was a shooting in some place in New Mexico, right? By far the most common route for monuments to being destroyed was for protesters to damage it, then the city quickly removing it as a quote-unquote public safety hazard. What a scam, never to be returned. And by the way, they don't know what to do with them afterwards. They claim that they're going to put them in a museum. They can't put them in a museum. It's a logistical nightmare what to do with these people. With these statues. So leave it alone. Anyways, for a majority of the statues removed, the fate of the artwork is currently unknown, while a minority have been moved to cemeteries and museums. Evil, illogical people. And liberals hate what's right. They hate what's white, because most of the time the whites are for what's right, at least in terms of this stuff. So, New York Times. By the way, New York Times is blaming white parents for the problems with the education system. Nice white parents. They have this podcast or something going on. Yeah. They say, this is a tweet from the failing New York Slimes. To understand what's wrong with our public education system, you have to look at what's arguably the most powerful force in our schools, white parents. And that's because they're involved. Listen to the trailer for Nice White Parents, a new series by Serial, brought to you by New York Times, reported by Chana Joffe-Walt, hyphenated last name, producer Julie Snyder, edited by Sarah Koenig, Neil Drumming, and Ira Glass, editorial consulting by Eve L. Ewing and Rachel Lissy, bunch of females and liberals and non-Christians, or anti-Christians. New York Times writes, we know that American public schools do not guarantee each child an equal education. We know that, excuse me? And you can't, that's not what the school system is for. Because your education depends on you, your parents, and all that stuff. 2 decades of school reform initiatives have not changed that. But when we look at how our schools are failing, we usually focus on who they're failing, black and brown kids. We ask, why aren't they performing better? Why aren't they achieving more? And their title is Nice White Parents. Sick people. And New York Times is trying to get their 1619 project, propaganda against whites and against America, into their school curriculum. And it was created by this Ronald McDonald-looking woman. I showed you her picture. Don't scare me. You can show it to me, but don't scare me again. There's Nicole with a K, Hannah something. Sick. Let me get to some first-time callers. Brenda, first-time caller out of Indiana. Brenda, nice to hear from you. What's up?
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Hey, you're welcome. Nice to hear from you.
Well, sorry. Well, I have 2 points to make. Number one, I'm driving through the cornfields of Illinois right now, and there are a lot of Trump signs.
Nice.
And Trump flags, too. These people aren't scared.
You know what? I'm not exactly angry about or I'm not really disheartened by the evil that's being unmasked here, that they're unmasking themselves here, because that is increasing the support for Trump, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
There's been a shift lately, hasn't there?
It seems like it. Yeah.
And,
but we need more than just support for Trump. We need people to fight back in the right way. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
Definitely. Another point I had, I was listening to you and Jesse talk about Wendy's one time, and you're talking about them burning down Wendy's, and Jesse's like, well, I bet you they're not happy they gave all that money.
Yeah,
to DLive now.
that's right. That was in Atlanta, Georgia, I think, after the guy was asleep in the Wendy's. There's the Ronald McDonald lady.
I did some thinking about that when you guys were saying that, and then I thought, you know what? They wouldn't dare
Talk about a
not
clown, huh?
give them the money.
Yeah.
I mean, they're calling around fundraising. They've got like a terrorist running fundraising for them, and
I heard that.
And they're shaking down companies for money. And can you imagine the conversation, how it would go if you said, no, you're not giving to Black Lives Matter?
Interesting
How would that go?
point.
Like, are you a racist? Or we're going to burn down your company figuratively. And just, or say you donated already to them. They'll check their records and they'll come after you. It's like, it's the modern day mafia.
Oh, that is an interesting point. That is true.
They're shaking down people for protection. They're, like I said, all those companies. Remember, everyone's boycotting. Oh, well, they donated to Black Lives Matter. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? They probably didn't dare not do it.
You know, it is kind of an extortion racket, but, you know, I say people need more principles because these people really lack morals. And they're Red Bull, you know how we were all excited. Some people were all excited because Red Bull fired some of their diversity people. Actually, they weren't even diversity people. There's this woman who was she is a lesbian, 47 years old, Amy Taylor, I think. She was the president. She's been with them since 1999. So, I mean, she worked her way up fair and square, I guess. But she was the president of North American Red Bull Company, right? North American branch. Yeah. They're Austrian or something. And she was pushing for them to come out with public support for Black Lives Matter. And there was another guy who was supporting her. And then there was a third person who was a little bit more, maybe on our side a little bit. He put out this funny map where America is drawn pretty well. And it says, America, we're the best. And then it has Canada uninhabited, Antarctica cold, we drop bombs here in the Middle East and stuff like that. Communists over in Russia and China. And, you know, it's all like, looks like it was drawn by a 4-year-old or whatever. And he was fired for putting up that slide and it was not advised. But we're showing this picture of this lesbian woman who was promoting this stuff. And she's taking part in this Lesbians Who Lead or something like that. But she was a sucker for, and she was pushed around by millennial associates or inferiors, subordinates, who came to her saying she needs to support the people of color more. Because she's more of like a Gen Xer. She doesn't know all of this young radical stuff as much, even though she is a radical lesbian. And these companies are hiring people like that and putting them in positions of power, and they're bowing to this PR stuff when I really don't think that they need to do that. Even
it's the 30 fronts. They've infiltrated everything.
Even Chick-fil-A, they're kissing up, just kiss ups. Just sick. And, you know, I'm not in their position. I don't know what type of pressure they're under, but it's no excuse.
Oh, gosh, you know they have to be, because a few years ago they were all on our side about everything.
Yeah, but then even after that thing, they said, oh, we're not going to talk about politics anymore. after they said, oh, you know, the Dan Cathy, the president or CEO, they said, come as you are. That's satanic, isn't it? Isn't that what Nirvana had a song called that? This Amy Taylor lady who was she got fired though, and so did the conservative, supposedly conservative.
I remember that, and I went home to my family and I said, you know what? There's going to be a run on Red Bull, just like going on. So
I know. I even got my first Red Bull. Yeah, it's really nasty and evil. But that's why, you know, in the Bible it says, be faithful with little things. You know, these little things in your life that you think, I can't help it. And then but you have to be faithful with everything. Otherwise, you're not going to be trustworthy with this big stuff. And this big stuff is not even really big stuff. It's just big stuff in the worldly sense. But you have to, like, be, I don't know, you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect. I appreciate it. Brenda, I got to run. Nice hearing from you.
Okay, thank you, James.
Great points. Take care.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Gabriel, first-time caller out of Massachusetts. I'm sorry to put you in the last minute, but you got less than a minute. Go for it. Out of Massachusetts.
All right, Mr. Hake.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having my call. I'll try to use my minute the best I can.
Go for it.
I haven't heard your show in a while. Last few days. The YouTube shut down, and Jesse Lee Peterson really hurt. I just still don't know why I did that. But I was actually watching what had happened. So I was shocked. But
yeah.
I was thinking, had you heard about the July 18th burning of the cathedral in Nantes, France? Had you heard about that?
You know what? I don't think I did hear about that. They burned a cathedral in France?
Yeah, 10
They've
days
been
ago,
burning
massive
cathedrals.
Fire.
There's been an attack on Christians, I've heard.
Yeah, churches all over the place. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's the third one I've heard about in France, but I think there might even be more. And I just wanted to ask if you heard about it because it's hard to hear about it.
Yeah.
But I guess the 25th, a week later, the guy who did it finally, he confessed. He was a Rwandan refugee, 39-year-old guy. He confessed to doing it. And all I could think of was Jesse saying that black people cause destruction. And I wish I knew more about it because I know a lot of black people, and they're really great people, and I don't want to believe that they cause destruction, you know?
Well, I mean, people are nice to you and you're nice to them, at least to a point.
Yeah.
And human beings are really evil, and the people who have been encouraged in that evil and not discouraged from it, they've been told that they're immune from hatred and racism stuff. They can't be racist and stuff like that. They've been taught that racism is worse than murder, basically. In reality, I mean, Taylor Swift said, nothing is worse than white supremacy, right? They're brainwashed in this victimhood stuff. Victims are the worst perpetrators. So don't be afraid. I mean, you don't have to like try to imagine the blacks that you know being evil. Just keep your eyes open. Know yourself. If you know yourself, then you won't be surprised by the evil in the world because you'll see the evil in you, even if you say you overcome it. But
I felt it.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, nice to hear from you, Gabriel.
Awesome.
How old are you, by the way?
Thank you very much. I'm 40.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
What an honor. Take care, man.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hake. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Daily Mail has an article on that burning, and I have heard like Paris. They've been burning a bunch of stuff. It's crazy. There is definitely an attack, and people are blind. Anyways, guys, I'm over time. I gotta end. This has been the Hake Report. TheHakeReport.com/show for my stuff. JesseLeePeterson.com/show for Jesse's stuff. Enjoy this beautiful song, or maybe disturbing, from Place Boing. Take care, guys.
We came, we saw, he died. We came, we saw, he died. Look, we came, we saw, he died. Look, we came, we saw, he died.
It's not a laughing matter. I take it really seriously.
Vote for me because I'm a woman. One of my merits is I'm a woman. All these mothers vote for me because I'm a woman. Because I'm a woman. Vote for me because I'm a woman. One of my merits is I'm a woman. All these mothers vote for me because I'm a woman. Because I'm a woman.
A woman running to be the first woman president.
I cannot imagine anyone being more of an outsider than the first woman president.
Who can be more of an outsider than a woman president?
Well, I can't think of anything more of an outsider than electing the first woman president.
A woman president of the United States of America. Woman.